Hi there, I'm Jason Patton from the MTV Music Group. I'm the Director of Content Production and Technology Management, which is just a really long-winded way of saying I'm like a workflow guy, and we find different tools that can make production life easier and try them out and do some real-world testing with them before we roll them out to the general production community. So we can figure out all the bugs and all the places it works and doesn't work before we say, yes, we can do a big live show with it. So we've been working with Media Silo for a while from a review and approval standpoint and using it for basic production things. Just got to send clips out, got to get rid of DVDs in our workflows and really get people working in a collaborative space that they can access anywhere they've got an internet connection. And it's been really useful for that. And we have noticed there's a lot of things available inside the Media Silo platform that we realized we could exploit for different types of production needs. So one of the first things that really came up for us was, how can we work this into our live shows, our big events that we do? Every quarter or so we have a big tent pole, is sort of the Viacom speak for this, and it is the large shows that we have. It's the movie awards, which are next Sunday. It's the VMAs, it's the Woody Awards, VH1 Divas. So it's a lot of shows that we have going on. And we needed to, we know how to make the TV part of it. We've been doing that for a long time. But there's a lot of other ancillary production that goes into those shows. And we realized that there's a lot of work we could do to make that better. And one area that I got involved in was our red carpet workflows for our press teams. At all of our events, we have a press area where people go after they've won the awards, or for the red carpet stuff. We just have basic interviews where it's one of our teams asking questions. Hey, how was the award show? How do you like Austin? What do you think about this? Oh, what are you wearing? All that kind of content. And the goal for that stuff is we can use it internally, but we can also distribute it to all the press outlets. And in the old way, which is up here, this is what we did. We'd shoot something on a carpet with a camera, with a tape, and that doesn't make any sense, and then walk it over to a satellite truck at the end of the show. And this is after the whole thing's over with. And then, in the time after we shot that and got it on tape, someone sat there and edited for an hour and made a reel that's 2 hours long, which we're then laying off to a tape and playing it out over a satellite truck. And this is happening at 2 o'clock in the morning because the show's over and everybody else has gone home, but we got to send this up. And at the other end of it, there's some broadcast people who are dialing into the right coordinates on that satellite and getting this content. So that made sense 10 years ago. That made sense when we were sending things to Entertainment Tonight and Good Morning America, because they have this infrastructure. They can grab this. So that doesn't make sense anymore because, well, we've got those people. We know how to deal with them. But how do you get content to a blog, websites, all of this digital distribution that's out there? There's no way they're not going to pay the money to do that. So sort of came up with a new way of dealing with this world. And this was the first time that we tried it out. It was sort of in parallel with the satellite feed. So what we did, someone came to me and said, oh, we got to distribute all this stuff to the press outlets. And they laid out that old workflow. And I'm like, you kidding me? I don't want to, I'm going to be stuck at the satellite truck at 2 a.m. And I was. And that wasn't fun. I missed the after party. But then, we came up with a new way of doing it where, all right, instead of recording to tape, I'm going to capture this thing, edit it on a computer, and right there sitting next to the guy who's doing the interviews, and then in code, yeah, I'm still feeding to satellite at the end of the day and playing out, but all right, at least we're not dealing with any tape. But in this parallel workflow, I said, you know what, I'm going to post a proxy up on this site called Media Silo. Don't worry, I'll explain it later. You don't have to get scared about me putting things on the internet. It's okay. So we put the proxies up and we embedded a player in one of our pages using a web channel feature that is just in Media Silo. And so we had a place for people to view this content. So it was a nice thing, but they still had to be on the satellite to grab that. And I've got the satellite feed still up there. So it didn't really solve the problem. It just sort of helped us get everyone thinking in a new direction that, okay, we can do some of this distribution online. So the next step in that was what we've done on our last show, which was the Woody Awards for MTVU. And it's a big college music festival that spans a day during South by Southwest. And we have, there's every musician in the world is in Austin that week, and they all come to the show. So we have everyone that's important for college music shows up that day, and we interviewed every single one of them. So the workflow changed around a little bit this time. We're capturing live, still doing that stuff, but now we introduced Prelude into the workflow. And this was done mainly because we have so much content. In that one day, we interviewed 60 bands, and we weren't just doing these press stand-up interviews. Hey, how was the show? What do you think? We also we have questions prepared for other divisions of the company. So our international team said, hey, can you grab these 10 bands and ask them specific things that are important for our international markets? We were doing promos for other shows that were coming up. One of the bands that was there was doing a guest music supervising on one of our series. So we had them do all their promo reads right there because we had everyone in place. So I have 8-minute interview clips with people. 2 minutes of it are for press, 2 minutes are for a promo, another minute's for international, and then there's like radio reads and all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of content, and it's all got to be cataloged and distributed. So what we did with Prelude was I began, just clipping this stuff up as the show was going on and just slapping little in and out marks, making sub-clips for each one of these things. And I'll go through that. I'll show you, how we did that in Prelude. And then we're exporting these files. Everything was captured as ProRes, exported as ProRes, and then we did another pass on it as XDCAM because we needed a lighter format to upload. Because a lot of these events that we go to, we're never quite sure what kind of bandwidth we're going to have. So sometimes it can be amazing. We can have, I think at this show I had 50 megs up, which was perfect. But there are other shows that we do where I have 5. And so I need to have a sort of nimble workflow and change things around as necessary. But we found that XD works very, very well because it's broadcast quality. It's good enough to do a lot of the things we need to do. And most times people are just going to drop it into another editing platform to get their work done. So we uploaded everything right within Adobe Media Encoder. And there's a feature there where you can put in a FTP information, and we put in our project info as well for Media Silo, and we're able to upload everything directly to a watch project, where we could go in and enter some additional metadata, and then we copied it to another project, which then populated this media portal, which is a new thing that the Media Silo is working on, which allowed us to have a single website for people to go to. So they didn't have to have a Media Silo account. We weren't just sending links around. I was sending one link for here's the distribution page, and here's all the clips that you need. Grab everything. We're able to download the clips directly from there. So it was a really nice way of distributing to the broadcast outlets. So we're still hitting what we were doing before, except there's not a satellite truck. Our internal Viacom teams, and this was across every division of every part of the music group, which is MTV, VH1, CMT, and Logo. And there were people from all of those channels asking for content from this. So they were grabbing it from there. Different websites and blogs were also grabbing this stuff as well. And it's just a nice way for us to get all this content out and really not have to chase people down and say, hey, did you get the clip? Oh, let me send you a tape. Let me send you a drive. It's just we send one link out and it's easy to go. So let me move on and show you how we did this inside of Prelude. And what we basically, our workflow is there's one person with a little box taking an SDI feed in, Thunderbolt connected to the laptop, and we're just capturing locally. And then I would set up a little ad hoc network where all the computers, we have watch folders on all of them. So the file gets copied, then I can see that folder and then move it in and begin working in Prelude. So in the basic Prelude interface, we would ingest these clips, and I'll show you some of the stuff that we did for this. We can set some metadata on ingest, which is huge because these are really fast-paced workflows because we're sitting at a red carpet. We're sitting at one of these press tents, and I've got 5 bands lined up after one band does their interview. So we need to be able to move as quickly as possible to get this stuff out. So I don't want to go to 3 different programs to do the things I need to do. So I need to ingest, clip, add some metadata, and then kick off a workflow to upload and get it to Media Silo. It's kind of nice because Prelude's a really good entry point for that, where I can begin to start building what I'm going to see in our media portal at the end. So, South by Southwest interview, great. So what I would do, in this case, where listening to this and I know a question's coming, I can make a sub-clip.
It's been pretty good. It's been busy.
Right away.
A lot of shows, a lot of interviews.
And then basically set an in and out point on this, and just making a very quick sub-clip inside of Prelude. And add a little description to that so I know what it is. First question, got my basic in and out points. And what I would do during these events is just mark up each one of these things. So every time there's a question or a specific area that they're talking about, or if it's one of the promo reads or international or any of the things that we're doing, I could just put in another subclip here and say, all right, that's international. So what I would do at this point, just send this to Premiere. It'll load the file in, load my rough cut in, the same thing that I just did in Prelude. And what's really nice about this is all of the metadata that I entered. I didn't enter a lot on that before, but I entered in South by Southwest interview and Cold War Kids. That's carried over into Premiere. It's embedded in the XMP in the header of that file. So that's going to carry on throughout this whole process. And what's really nice about this with Media Silo, they're now parsing XMP data for video. So I'm able to enter metadata here, or actually one step before in Prelude, and then not worry about it. Know that it's going to carry over into Media Silo, and that's really, really helpful. So at this point, the next thing I would do is just make movie, standard Premiere kind of stuff, and send this file out. And as I had mentioned before, we had set it up, and I've taken out my FTP information here, but I would put in my Media Silo credentials here, remote directory, send it right to the project that I want it to go to, and click and upload, and I'm good to go. So that worked out, like I said, very, very well for us. Let me jump into Media Silo itself and show you what that looked like once we got things loaded up. Now, as you can see, these are all the interviews that we did during that show, and it was really, really helpful for us. To get it up in this environment, we could enter some additional metadata, do some cleanup of the files, move things around where they needed to go, and also begin to enter tags and whatnot. And if you're familiar with Media Silo, this is one of the best features. It's one of the most useful things when you have a lot of content in one place, because I can click on a tag to pull up just the clip I'm looking for. And that's really, really useful. But then what we would do, as we mentioned before, we had this other website where we were directing people to go to, and that was the media portal. Because in the past, when the first times we ever set this up, we pointed people to a Media Silo page. We're like, go to Media Silo, log in with these credentials, gave everyone the same credentials for all the press teams, and they would go in. But it was a little bit of, we had to communicate to all the press teams, go to this website, click here, do this. And it was, they're not Media Silo users. We wanted to transition people in and give them credentials to do this, but for some of the press teams, it might just be a one-off. We might not deal with this entity again. So it was, we decided it was much, much easier just to give them access to this media portal website and allow them to browse through the clips. You can, here's that same clip that we were looking at before. And then what's really great about this, I can click download, and there it is. It's starting to go. And what they're downloading there is that XDCAM file that has that good enough for broadcast in this case, and allows us to distribute all this content in a very short window. So at the end of the show, like I said, we had done 60 interviews, put up, I don't even remember how many total clips were distributed, both by this site and sending internal. Doing internal Viacom Media Silo sharing. So, but in the end, I think it was probably like 150 different pieces of content that we got up in less than 24 hours. And that was really, really helpful to get this out, especially for a show like this that wasn't, it was live to tape. So we were, it was airing 3 days later. So this allowed people to begin getting work done and cutting additional promos and doing things that were going to help drive viewers to that show. So, yeah, and it actually would have been, this is sort of a nice evolution for us to go from that tape workflow with a satellite truck and an old way of doing things to now we're doing full digital distribution using cloud-based tools, using things that make a lot of sense for us to achieve a production need that, well, actually at first nobody really knew, nobody thought we were doing anything wrong before and that we were being inefficient. But this was, it showed there's a much better way to do this. And you can use a lot of different tools and, and do things once when before we were doing them many times.